Howdy, neighbors, and welcome to the very first episode of Boondock Stallions. I'm your host, David Ariola, and today we'll be delving into film theory for the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them series. I know we're only 2 out of 5 movies into it, but I've got a pretty good theory for how the 5th one is going to end, at least regarding Dumbledore and Grindelwald, so I want to put this out there a few years ahead of time. Before we get started, I want to send a big shout out and thank you to the 2 YouTubers that have inspired me to get up off my butt and make this video, start my own channel, and get the ball rolling. So, everybody at Super Carlin Brothers, this one's for you. Hey, brother! Well, I guess that one was specifically for Ben because I know how much he enjoys the longer ones. Okay, I just heard it, and I probably could have worded that a little bit better. Sorry. Moving on. Harry Potter fans, I've got a question for you that requires your utmost attention. Think really hard. How exactly did Albus Dumbledore defeat Gellert Grindelwald during their legendary battle in 1945? Anyone? No? How disappointing. Well, if you're familiar with the books, the back of a chocolate frog card, Pottermore, or even Wikipedia for that matter, there aren't really that many details. It lets us know that it happened in continental Europe sometime in 1945, and that Dumbledore defeated Grindelwald, becoming the master of the Elder Wand, and Grindelwald spent the remainder of his life in Nurmengard prison, which, ironically, he built for his opponents. And that's about it. That's about the most answers we have about it, because in the Harry Potter series, that was Dumbledore's story, and we are not telling Dumbledore's story, we're telling Harry's story, so the details were unnecessary. Having said that, we could just accept that Dumbledore was the greatest wizard of all time, and that pre-Voldemort, Grindelwald was the best dark wizard of all time, that good defeated bad, and that was pretty much how it went down. You didn't really need a lot of answers. But then we got to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and we got new information that went completely above our heads. We had the information that Grindelwald was in fact in possession of the Elder Wand during his battle with Dumbledore in 1945. For those of you who don't know what the Elder Wand is one of 3 magical objects known as the Deathly Hallows, the master of which becomes the master of death, making you basically immortal. The properties of the Elder Wand are extremely famous and have littered the pages of history with blood, because it's an unbeatable wand. Nobody can beat the owner of the unbeatable wand, so they have to sneak up on them while they're asleep and slit their throat, poison their food, break into their house while they're in another room and just steal it and jump out of a window. All kinds of sneakiness and underhandedness going on there. But if Grindelwald had an unbeatable wand, then how did Dumbledore beat him? Well, plot twist, he didn't. That's right. I believe that Grindelwald, in fact, surrendered. Now, you might be thinking, why would he do that? He's got the unbeatable wand. He's got this in the bag. He is at the height of his power. He can easily cripple and defeat Dumbledore and send him to his own Nurmengard prison instead of himself. So why would he surrender? Well, for anybody familiar with Albus Dumbledore, you already know the answer. Love. Love is always the answer. At least for Dumbledore. I mean, anytime Harry has a question, Professor Dumbledore, how did I survive the killing curse that Lord Voldemort casted me? Love, Harry. Professor Dumbledore, how did I not become a Slytherin? Because love, Harry. Professor, love, damn it, love! Love! Love. It's always love. Easily the best answer. I'd like to give you a brief history between Albus Dumbledore and Gellert Grindelwald. Albus Dumbledore graduated from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry at the age of 17 and had plans to travel the world with one of his friends, but those were cut short due to the accidental death of his mother, Kendra Dumbledore, at the hands of his younger sister, Ariana. This made Albus the head of household and sole breadwinner provider for the entire Dumbledore family that wasn't in prison, i.e. his father. So Dumbledore's plans had been cut short and he was stuck at home, a responsible family man taking care of his younger siblings. Was basically his life. Meanwhile, Gellert Grindelwald, having been expelled from Durmstrang because he's a monster and did a lot of bad things, was stuck in Godric's Hollow as well, living with his aunt, noted magical historian Bathilda Bagshot. The two of them, being the best and brightest of their age, easily and quickly became friends, That friendship blossomed into a partnership because the two of them had in fact decided that they were going to overthrow the wizarding government and rule over the Muggles for their own good, well, for the greater good, as they would put it, but, ideally they would think it was for the Muggles' own good. But these plans were cut short when Albus's younger brother Aberforth Dumbledore confronted the both of them and explained that these were just fancy dreams and were never actually going to happen. Albus had obligations and responsibilities in the form of his younger siblings, one of whom was still in school and the other one was in extremely fragile mental condition and required constant supervision. So there was no way he was going to be able to just leave them alone and run off around the world and fight these battles, or even take them with him. That would be outrageous. This led to a fight. The fight led to a duel, and the duel resulted in the death of Ariana Dumbledore. Now, all three men claimed responsibility for killing Ariana. It's what split them apart. Albus and Aberforth became estranged brothers because they both felt responsible for the death of their younger sister, and that's pretty much how that went. Well, I'm sorry. Albus blamed himself, and Aberforth blamed himself. And as far as Grindelwald is concerned, Grindelwald just left and carried on with his business. But the reason he carried on with his business is because they were in love. You see, Grindelwald and Dumbledore, aside from being best friends and partners, were in fact lovers. J.K. Rowling has said on many occasions that Dumbledore is gay, but it was unnecessary to the Harry Potter narrative to be in there. And now that we're going back and telling Dumbledore's story, it's the perfect time to illustrate all of these things. So, with the idea that they were lovers and that Grindelwald feels personally responsible for murdering Ariana Dumbledore, and that is what drove the wedge between him and his great love. And I mean his great love. Those two were each other's greatest love. They were each other's lobsters. Like, hit the comments if you know what the lobster reference is, because I don't have any money or prizes to give away, but as soon as I've got enough followers and the means, I'm going to send you guys a shout out and all kinds of thank yous for being smart enough to get the lobster reference. Anywho, so being heartbroken and devastated and in the trauma of losing the absolute love of his life, Gellert Grindelwald did something very human. He ran with his angry emotions and became, pre-Voldemort, the greatest dark wizard of all time. And it's proven that he was even most likely, in fact, behind World War II, all because of a broken heart. So, we know that Grindelwald was still in love with Dumbledore. Further proof of this is in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows when you get to the very end. And I mean the book, not the movie, because the movie ruined this. But in the book, Voldemort learns that Grindelwald was the owner of the Elder Wand, goes to the prison, breaks in, and asks him where it is. Now, at this point, most of us would believe, most of us that don't know that Grindelwald and Dumbledore were lovers, would believe that Grindelwald has absolutely no reason to be loyal to Dumbledore. He has no reason to not tell Voldemort that Dumbledore has the wand. And obviously, Dumbledore's got the wand. Who do you think put me here, stupid? Hello? Anyways, he lied to him. Point blank. He said, I have no idea what you're talking about. It was a lie to further my cause and instill fear in people to make me the greatest dark wizard. I never had it. This was a lie because Grindelwald knew, as I know, and all of us that read the book and saw the movie knew, that Voldemort would in fact go and crack open that tombstone and pull the wand from his dead lover's cold, dead hands. And not on Grindelwald's watch, everybody. Not on Grindelwald's watch. Hashtag gay love in the comments for that one. Now, we know that Dumbledore was still in love with Grindelwald. That has actually been proven in the movies. If you remember Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, when Dumbledore is explaining to Harry how the Mirror of Erised works, he explains that the mirror doesn't give you knowledge or wisdom. It shows you nothing more than the deepest and most desperate desires of your heart. Fast forward / rewind to Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald, and we have maybe a 60 to 70 years, let's go with 60 years younger version of Dumbledore standing in front of the Mirror of Erised. And at this point, it's already been at least 30 years since he and Grindelwald were lovers. But he stands and he looks into the Mirror of Erised, and what does he see? Grindelwald! That's right. He sees his lover, the deepest and most desperate desire of his heart, the person that he cannot be with, is in the mirror. That is all the evidence that I needed to run with this theory. So, here's my theory. When we get to the battle between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, I believe that Grindelwald is going to confess that it was him that killed Ariana, and that it was his guilt for killing Ariana that separated the two of them, and that's why he is where he is, and that's why everything that's happened has happened. I mean, the two of them even made a promise not to fight each other. They made a pact, a blood pact, not to fight each other. Why would they do that unless they were still in love with each other? So Grindelwald confesses to Dumbledore that he believes that it was him that killed Ariana Dumbledore. But I believe that Dumbledore is going to counter that and say, actually, I know for a fact it was me that cast the spell that killed Ariana. This is how he disarms Grindelwald. It's not a physical disarm, it's an emotional disarm. Because by confessing that he was the one that killed Ariana Dumbledore, he has lifted a weight of guilt and burden that has been eating away at Grindelwald's soul for his entire adult life. And by doing so, Grindelwald, feeling relieved, knowing that he could, in fact, defeat Albus because he has the Elder Wand, surrenders the Elder Wand. He gives it to Albus because he loves Albus and is sorry that everything went the way it did. And he quietly, as penance for what he's done over the years, goes to his own prison to sit out his term for the rest of his life. Now, that actually even goes a little bit further to explaining what happened with Dumbledore, because he and Aberforth had fought, and Aberforth had stated a few times that Dumbledore resented his younger siblings because they were the only things tethering him to this little town in Godric's Hollow and were keeping him from going out with his lover and dominating the world and the wizarding world and the human world and doing all of his great plans. So since he couldn't do what he wanted to do, he decided to become the greatest wizard of all time. He would achieve countless great achievements. I mean, all over the place. He did a million wonderful things and became a beacon of hope and a symbol of love for the entire wizarding world. Even the Muggle world and Mudbloods alike would call him their champion because he was the greatest wizard of all time. And he did all of this without the one thing that he actually wanted, his lover. This actually goes a lot to explain why he trusts Snape so much. I mean, yes, you can accept that Snape loved Lily his entire life, and you can accept that he felt remorse that Lily died because of the information that he gave Lily. But at that point, Dumbledore didn't have to trust Snape, but he recognized the kindred spirit. He recognized that this man was just as in love with Lily as he and Grindelwald were in love with each other. So, my theory is it's not a big fight scene. It's just going to be an emotional scene where Dumbledore and Grindelwald are in love, and their love is what wins. Hashtag gay love in the comments. That's my theory. Mischief Manish. We're out of here. Have a good day. I love you all. Be excellent to each other. Good night.